a 5.5-pound chicken, which meant it took a little longer than I thought it was going to take to actually cook. So we're going to go ahead and get this chicken out of the pan and carved up so that y'all can eat, or so that I can eat. If you got some chicken picker-upper things, go ahead and use these. These are for turkey, yet I'm going to go ahead and use them for my chicken as well. Let me switch over to that. There we go. So you can see the chicken looks amazing. Very, very well done and tasty looking. You'll also notice that the veggies are roasty, but they're not burned. And this is kind of what you're looking for. Now you can actually take these and put them into a stock, if you put the stock together, and they will taste amazing. They'll add a lot of depth of flavor to the stock. They'll also make it a brown stock as opposed to a clear stock. Now I'm going to use a little towel and grab some of these extra juices that are pooling up. And I'm just going to kind of wrap them around the chicken like this. Get that out of the way. And then we're good to go. Any extra veggies that pop up, I'm just going to toss them back in the pan. And then we are moving forward. So I'm going to use some kitchen shears here. The twine that we kind of wrapped around a couple times. Going to cut through it like so. And get rid of any pieces. And then kind of unwrap it. Same with this side. There we are. Now for the chicken, I like to spin it around this way so that the breasts are facing me. Grab my knife, find where the breastplate is, the breastbone. You'll be able to feel it. And what we're going to do is just kind of cut right in where the breastbone is. Very similar to if you're doing this with a chicken that is not roasted, like a fresh chicken. Dinner soon, yes, no wine. I am actually doing keto to lose some weight because I'm a little bit overweight right now. But the chicken will be amazing, and the tabbouleh was very, very tasty. Now, another thing I didn't mention about the tabbouleh, if you don't want to use bulgur, if you can't find it, the wheat that we were using earlier, you can also use quinoa. Just cook it in advance, make sure that it's nice and soft, and let it cool completely before you put it in the bowl. You don't have to add any water to it because it's already soft and cooked, but you can just start adding your tomatoes and cucumber on top of that. So I like to start on one side at a time. So I'm doing the right-hand side, cutting down into the breast, and you're going to feel resistance. You're actually going to get to the cavity. If you can, I don't know if you can see that or not, but you can see the lemon in there from the cavity, the chest cavity. And we're just going to cut straight down, and you're just going to kind of use the knife to kind of follow the body of the chicken, the bones, the carcass, I guess. And then I like to come over here and cut in between the thigh and the body as well. Usually a pretty good idea to have a towel or something over here because this is where a lot of juice kind of collects and it's going to come pouring out. And then you can actually just use your knife to kind of flatten this out and then continue to cut through. And I really do need to sharpen my knives. But you can almost pull the meat right off of the carcass. And as you lay this flat, the thigh socket will actually probably pop itself out, and you'll get a full leg like that. Leg, thigh. You can take the drumstick. If you want to lay it upside down like this, you can actually see where the joint is, and just cut right through. Got nice crispy skin on our thigh, nice crispy skin on our drumstick. And there we go. Little sampler for me. And then if there's any extra meat that didn't quite come off, you can just kind of pick it off and set it over with the rest. So we've got a thigh and a drumstick off. From this point, I actually come in right where the joint is, like right where the crook of the, I guess, wing pit, armpit is for the chicken. You can just kind of cut straight diagonal in. And sometimes your knife will go right through. Sometimes you have to kind of search for where the actual joint is. There we go. And you'll just slice that right off. And you got a drumstick, actually a full wing. And you can take this, and if you're going to use it in stock, you can do that. You can serve it on the side with the rest of your chicken. There we go. I'll actually move the twine over there. And now you have access to the bottom part of the breast over on this side. So what I'm going to do is actually, I'm going to prop you up on your side a little bit, like so. Let's see if we can hold you up. Perfect. So we've already cut all the way through this way. We're into the chest cavity. Saw what? Since you can't have gluten. Oh, the quinoa instead of the bulgur? Yes, definitely. And it tastes great. I do that like 90% of the, well, I shouldn't say 90, 50-50. Usually half the time I'll do the bulgur, and then half the time I'll use quinoa instead. And then season the quinoa separately. So when you're cooking the quinoa, season it to be just a little bit saltier than what you would normally make it if you were going to eat it just plain. And that'll give you a perfect seasoning for it for when you add the lemon juice and everything else. So we've already cut the chicken breast in this way. Now what we're trying to do is kind of get under from the other side. So I always start all the way at the bottom tip here, and your knife should just slide right in. And you're essentially going right up along the bottom of the back of the body. And the knife is going to meet some resistance, so just kind of do the best you can to get around that. And then cut right up to the front like so. And what you should be able to do is almost lift the breast right off. And you'll kind of see the cavity over there. You'll see if you've missed any bits. The steam will burn you because it's hot. Ideally, you'll let your chicken rest for 15-20 minutes and let it kind of cool down a little bit before you carve it. Yet it's 9 o'clock and I'm hungry, so I'm not going to wait. And then you can see that this literally just kind of pops right off and you get a full chicken breast. Now, if it's getting stuck with any of the skin, you can just run your knife into the skin and cut through it. And there you go. Full chicken breast. All good. Now again, on this side of the chicken, you might have a little bit of chicken meat that's still attached to the cavity. You can just use your knife here to kind of slice it off or peel it off. And oftentimes the breastbone or the wishbone is going to be in part of this meat. So you can either just pull it out with the meat and then remove it later, or just kind of separate the meat on its own. And then I like to have kind of like a little pile of extra meat, and that's what I pick from when I want a little bit of a snacker from this chicken. But cool, so we got one half of the chicken pretty much pulled apart. Now, there is some meat over here, which is great. You can pull that off yourself as well. We still have a little bit attached to the carcass, but I'm not going to go too deep into that. One of the other pieces that you can definitely go into was right here, at the back of where the thigh was connected. They call this the oyster. And you can run your knife just kind of along the back, and it's bone back here. It's almost like it's a little socket, but there is no socket that goes in there. This is just meat, and it's super tender. This is essentially like the chicken tenderloin. So if you know like beef tenderloin, or if you know pork tenderloin, that would be like a chicken tenderloin. And that's kind of what I've heard all the professional chefs say for themselves, because it's not part of any piece that you would actually serve to somebody. But yeah, nice little piece of tenderloin. Super tender, very tasty. And now we just move on to the left-hand side. So we've got the right taken apart. We already see where the breastbone is here. So I'm actually just going to kind of pull the skin back a little bit and just kind of cut right along the edge here at the very tip. And I'm just going to kind of slide my knife down and cut down to the cavity like we did on the other side. Just kind of start pulling the meat away and separating it just to see if I can get kind of a little bit of visibility in there. Just start pulling it away from the carcass. Once you've cooked a chicken, the meat will separate a lot easier than if you're butchering one fresh or uncooked. And so you got to be a little bit gentle with your knife. If you go in there and like really have at it, you're just going to shred the meat. If you're doing a shredded dish, that might work for you. That might be what you're looking for. But if you're doing something like where you want presentation to look nice, that might not be the best course of action. So I've gotten this separated. I'm going to just cut down the back a little bit. There we go. And then we'll do the exact same thing as we did over there. I'm actually going to flip the bird this way so I have better access to the thigh. And the thigh always has a pocket of air in between where the thigh is and where the chicken breast ends. So you can just kind of cut into that little pocket of air, and that'll separate the thigh from the breast. And then you just kind of cut right in between. It's almost like a 45-degree angle. And we'll cut down. We'll push the bone out a little bit. And we'll just cut right down like that. And in this case, the oyster started coming out with the rest of the thigh, so I'm just going to keep getting it out. There we are. And the bone on this one came out as well. So I'm just going to set the bone aside. We'll just cut the thigh off of the drumstick. Now we've got 2 drumsticks. Lay them like that. This thigh we'll put right there. A little bit of extra meat will go in the extra meat pile. And the oyster will go in my tummy. Extra meat. And then we'll finish up with this breast over here. Oh yeah, next day chicken is amazing. A lot of times I don't even heat it up. I just eat it cold. It's almost like cold pizza. My doggo really wants some of this chicken, but he already had dinner and a treat. So he does not get any more treats. And so I'm just going to kind of peel the chicken breast off. And where I see that it's attached, I'm going to cut through. And there we go. We got 2 breasts there, 2 drumsticks, 2 thighs. We'll get the second wing off. You'll see where the wing attaches to the actual chicken is right in there. And you can just kind of cut right through that. And that releases the wing. And we got 2 wings. Then you got this awesome chicken carcass here. It still has herbs in there. If you're going to use this chicken carcass for stock, remove the lemons, remove the herbs, because they'll just overpower them. I've done stock with everything still in the carcass, and I actually prefer the cleaner taste when you take all of that out, and I just use the bones. Usually what I'll do is I'll find the breastbone like this. There's usually a cartilage piece right here that goes towards the end. I'll cut right through that. And I'll remove it, and I'll put it in this because I'm going to use all of that. But now it's way easier to get in here and just kind of remove some of this stuff that we're going to be putting aside for later. Or what I mean by that is throwing it away. Or composting it. There we go. And then there's a lot of juice still here left in this carcass. I'm going to pour it out into the pan. And then what I'm going to do is actually use these kind of rib bones here. The ones that are on the bottom of the chicken. They're right down here. Bottom of the rib cage. I'm going to use those to kind of split the carcass in half. So I'm going to go right down here like this. And then cut in between. And then just bend the carcass like that. And then what this does is now you can fit more of it into the pot. It's not a huge, like, half a chicken thing that needs to fit awkwardly into a pot. You can set them side by side for those pieces. You can put them on top of each other. You can do a lot more stock in a smaller space. And then another thing that I do is any bones that came off of this as well, I'll take them off. I'll put them over here. If I have any other bones, like I might even go in, like for me, I use the chicken wings. I'll actually tear the meat off and add them to my meat pile and then just use the bones from that. And all of that goes into my stock. Another thing that I will do is I'll actually pull all of these veggies out in the oil and I'll roast these for another hour. Not tonight, but what I'll end up doing is just roasting them for a little bit longer, usually about an hour. And that gives you a nice brown stock. Very rich, very tasty. Lovely, lovely, lovely flavor. But for now, I'm just going to set these guys in there. And then I'll clean this board, I'll clean my other board as well. Definitely clean off these towels. Usually toss them in the wash with some bleach after I get some of the solids off. But yeah, here's your chicken dinner. Let's say we want to do a drumstick, and we want to do a chicken breast. Do something like that to give it a little bit of dimension. And then I put the tabbouleh away, but if we wanted to plate this with tabbouleh, and we're just doing plating on the board here, a very rustic way of kind of getting this out. Get this in the garbage. And then I'll just set that over here on the carcass for now so I can toss it in the wash later. But I can come over here into my fridge, grab the tabbouleh, and add a little pile onto the board. And this is just an absolutely lovely way to serve up chicken. Let's see, I'll do this guy. Scoop out a good portion of some tabbouleh here. And let's say put it right there. Nice and rustic. And then if you wanted to get something like a couple of leaves and set them up alongside this, you would have a beautiful chicken dinner. Very rustically presented on a cutting board. You wouldn't use a cutting board this large necessarily, but since that's what I've got, that's what I'm going to show you. This works fantastically for turkey, by the way, too. So if you have a turkey that you're presenting for Thanksgiving, having it laid out on a cutting board like this, wonderful way to do it. It's very impressive. We'll move this guy over here as well. We'll just set these guys kind of in the back. Let's go ahead and move this like this. And there you go. Roast chicken and tabbouleh. I'll come over here and zoom in with this camera. Like so. And focus. Do that so you can see all of it. But there you go. Roast chicken, tabbouleh, done. Took a little longer than I expected. I mean, I got a bigger chicken than I thought I was going to get. I was actually expecting like a 3-pound chicken. Those usually take about an hour to cook. A little less time, usually like 45 minutes to an hour. And here I am grabbing a 5.5-pound chicken and not even realizing it. So yeah. Any questions? Any comments? Sorry that this was kind of a longer than usual cook along live and actually required two broadcasts. But I figured I'd come back and just kind of show you how to break something down and serve it. So anyway, stock is super easy. Fill it with bones, fill it with veggies, a couple of herbs, a bay leaf, and things like that. Just cover it to simmer and then simmer it. If you have a, let's see, fine mesh strainer like this, it's just a little flat strainer and it's got a super fine mesh in it. This actually skims off some of the fat from the surface while leaving most of the water in the pot. Fantastic way to increase your yield, and just boil it for an hour and a half. That's basically all it comes down to. Not boil it, simmer it. You want it at a very low simmer. So if it's just kind of sitting there going boop, 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 you're good. You really don't want a rolling boil. The more activity there is in the boil, the cloudier the stock will be. So if you want a nice clear stock, very low boil. Yeah, let me FedEx it to you in Colorado. I'm sure it'll get there tomorrow. I still don't think that this is going to be as good tomorrow when FedEx delivers it as it is going to be right now when I eat it, though. So, sorry. But I'm sure you guys can find a roast chicken or a chicken that you can roast in Colorado. And that is delicious. That's a good dinner. Well, anybody, have a great night, everybody. I will see you next Friday for 4th of July, our last Friday cook-along, before I start moving it to Sunday. And we'll be doing burgers, so get some ground beef. I don't know if you want me to grind my own meat or if you want me to just grab some ground beef, whatever's going to work best for y'all. But let me know in the comments on this video, and I will do my best to appease y'all. And we'll do cheese if you want cheese, bacon if you want bacon. We'll basically need like meat, onions, panko bread. I'm wondering how fancy I want to make the burgers. Some parsley. I'll put an ingredients list up this week. I'll have time this week to do that. So anyway, have a great night. See you next Friday. And have an awesome weekend, everybody. Bye.